Hello and welcome to Inside Tennessee Football's practice facility. I'm Ryan Sylvia, joined by Noah Taylor. We're with VolReport.com on the Rivals Network, and day 10 of Tennessee Fall Camp is in the books. Obviously, practice to kick off the morning, but afterwards, we talked to secondary coach Willie Martinez and then three defensive backs: Will Brooks, Christian Charles, and Jermod McCoy. So let's start with Willie Martinez. What did you think about what he had to say?
I thought it was interesting because since the Jordan Thomas injury, we haven't had a chance to talk to a defensive coach, I don't think. So, kind of our first chance to obviously talk to the secondaries coach and Willie Martinez and gave us a little bit of an update or some insight into that star position, what's going on there. Obviously, Tim Banks said it at the beginning of fall camp that, they've practiced a lot of guys at that position, wanted to have a lot of versatility there. But it seemed like the two main guys he talked about even then were Christian Harrison and Boo Carter, and it seems to be that nothing has changed much in that regard. Obviously some guys in the secondary practice there in the spring, so they have, experience at star. Martinez said as much today, but it seems to be just those two guys getting a lot of the reps there. And obviously Boo Carter's one we expected to get on the field early. Certainly sounds like they're pretty confident in him being able to do that now that he has to.
Yeah, and it was really kind of the whole defensive backs room overall that he seemed really happy with. Yeah. Even when you lose Jordan Thomas, and obviously that is a big blow, seemed pretty confident in what Christian Harrison or Boo Carter can do at that start position. When you look at the cornerback spots, Jermod McCoy, who I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute, and then also Ricky Gibson III on the other side of him, and then safety, Andre Turrentine. We'll see what they do at the other spot, maybe a Will Brooks. But overall, it seemed like he was pretty confident in kind of the whole room, and I think he said it was one of the, maybe not the best, but like one of his favorite rooms to be around, and that kind of that type of deal where he's talked about, sometimes when those position groups, split off, and I can't get a word in because these guys, not that they're goofing off, but that they're just talking a lot, talking with each other and talking about football and what they need to improve and what they like and what they don't like and everything like that. So overall, a position group that's been dominated by veterans in the past. When you look at guys, I'm not going to say that they were bad players, but I think that the appeal to a guy like a Jalen Nicola or someone like that was that he's played a lot of football and that he knew what he was doing. Well, now you maybe take a step in a different direction where it's a lot of guys that haven't played a lot. Yeah. I mean, that star position, we just talked about Boo Carter, Christian Harrison. Those are two guys that Boo Carter obviously hasn't played at all at college, right, and Christian Harrison was limited. Now you turn to a lot of talent, and maybe you lose a little bit of that veteran aspect and that been there, done that aspect. Not that there aren't guys that have played a lot of football here in that secondary, but it's going to be a different look, and it seems like so far so good. Heupel was confident about it after the scrimmage on Friday, and now Willie Martinez echoes kind of the same sentiment. Let's talk about some of those players, though. Mention the three. What was your biggest takeaway from that trio?
Yeah, you just mentioned McCoy in those corner spots between him and Ricky Gibson on the other side. I thought it was interesting talking to him. I can't remember if we got to talk to him back in the spring or if that, obviously a guy that came in here as a transfer from Oregon State, a young guy himself. He had a really good year there, but this is only his second year of football, I believe. So it's interesting hearing from him and kind of where he's grown, and talked a little bit about some of the stuff at practice we don't get to see. And Willie Martinez talked about it too. Had 4 turnovers today in the secondary, and McCoy said he had one of those, a pick six. Something obviously that they talked about on media day here when we did get to talk to the defensive backs. They put an emphasis on wanting to create turnovers, wanting to make plays. They know that the defensive line is obviously going to probably help create some of those, and obviously in the second level with the linebackers, you got experience there as well. But the biggest question mark, I think, of the defense, again, is going to be that secondary, and that's something that they wanted to do, was make turnovers. So it sounds like they've been able to do that, at least today, and he's been one of those guys that's come in here and made an impact right away. We heard from coaches in the spring that he came in, and he said it took about 2 weeks to kind of pick up the scheme, but he seems to be pretty much settled into it now from what we've heard and hearing from him today, too.
In the back in the secondary, I think Turrentine's pretty locked in as one of the starters. The question is who's going to be the other guy. Well, Will Brooks, despite being a walk-on technically and playing most of his career at special teams, recently getting some action in the secondary. I mean, made a start at star last year against Vanderbilt. He could be one of those options, and it wasn't necessarily what he said himself, but what Christian Charles said about him as two guys that are kind of vying for that spot at safety. He said if you have a question, that's who you go to, is Will Brooks. And I think that's interesting that a guy who's a redshirt senior, who's been here forever, we just talked about how it's a lot of young guys. Yeah. Well, he's one of the old guys that not only has played a lot of college football, but played a lot at Tennessee. So he knows what Tennessee's doing in this scheme. He knows what they want to accomplish. And it was like, it doesn't even matter if just me as a safety, if you're Christian Charles, I have a question for him, I go to him, it goes to cornerbacks, it goes to safeties, it goes to defensive linemen, it goes to it's anyone on the defensive side of the ball that has a question. They're like, yeah, you just turn and you ask Will, because he has a really firm grasp on what Tennessee wants to do on the defensive side of the ball. That'll do all from us here, though, today inside of Tennessee's practice facility. We'll keep you updated throughout fall camp. We're coming up on almost 2 weeks from kickoff, which is a crazy thing to say as Tennessee looks to get this 2024 season going. So for full coverage leading up to the season, full coverage during the season, full coverage on everything Tennessee athletics, we have you got over at VolReport.com. Links to everything needed is in the description. Thank you for watching.